The first question that we have is, Dear Ajahn, in mindfulness meditation, do we just observe our breath, or should we count our breath from 1 to 10 and then backwards?
You have to experiment, I think, if you're new to mindfulness of breathing meditation. The counting is to help steady your mind and give it some work to do while you're watching the breath, because the breathing, as we know, is a very subtle feeling. Most of the day, you're not aware of your breath going in and out or out. You tend to only notice your breath when you can't breathe very well. You know, like when you have a cold or you're underwater or something happens. Most of the time, you're going about your business not very aware of the breath. But as soon as you sit down and try to focus on the breath, it's quite hard to find that feeling, and even harder to stay with the feeling. So it's a technique. The counting is a technique that's been developed. Some people find it helpful. And there's different ways we count. 1 with each in-breath, out-breath, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4, up till 10. But if you lose count halfway through, then you restart at 1 every time. Don't be in a rush to get to 10. You want to do it properly and thoroughly. So if you get to 4 and then you start thinking about something else, you've lost it. As soon as you realize, make yourself restart at 1 again. One variation is to count up to 5, then go back to 1, then up to 6, back to 1, up to 7. There's a few variations with the counting, but the exercise is not in counting or going up to, large numbers, endlessly counting. 10 is enough. And the idea is to keep working until you can be mindful of 10 in-breaths and out-breaths without getting lost into trains of thought, distracted, and then simply to repeat it over and over again. And you'll find once you've got to that point, you'll start to feel more relaxed. Eventually, you can drop the counting and just staying with the actual sensation of the in-breath and the out-breath. If you practice regularly, you may not need to count. You may go to the breath. If you do it every day, you may just be able to just go to the breath at any time. But the counting can always be useful just to check that you really are with the breath moment to moment, because our mind loves to wander, drift off into sleepiness, thought, and we think we're with the breath, but we're not. Some people use the word Buddho, breathe in Bud, breathe out Do, so we can experiment with that. Some people don't want any sound, they just want to be with the sensation. That's okay. Just as with the breath meditation, you may start at the tip of the nostrils, but some people pick up at the chest, the heart area, some people at the abdomen, the rising, falling. I don't think any of them are wrong. You have to see what suits you. And one time somebody came to see Ajahn Chah and they said, there's all these different meditation techniques. Even mindfulness of breathing seems to have so many variations. What do we do? Ajahn Chah just said, just do the one that works for you, that you have found you can stay with, has brought you a sense of peace and you're content to work with. He said it's like fruit. You go into your house, you may have a fruit bowl on your table and it'll have many different kinds of fruit. They're all good. They're all fruit and they can all sustain you. You have to pick the one that suits you best. So there is some room for experimentation here, but the goal is mindfulness, clear comprehension from moment to moment, whatever the meditation technique, and even mindfulness of breathing, whether you count or not. The goal is to be mindful from moment to moment.
Dear Ajahn, we are inundated with the news of the terrible suffering in Gaza. There has been no views expressed by the religious leaders of the major religions on the destruction of homes, hospitals, and civilian lives. How should we as Buddhists react to this disaster? give us some guidance on how we should react and maintain our equanimity.
Well, every day religious leaders in Buddhism teach us the 5 precepts, not to kill. So that's a reflection, isn't it? You know, your aim in life is not to kill living beings, and that includes humans. Killing is suffering. Killing creates very strong negative karma. So you try not to do that, and you encourage other people not to do that. But they also teach us, like you say, equanimity, because there's a lot of killing and bad things go on in the world that you can't do a lot about yourself. But by keeping the 5 precepts yourself, you're gradually eroding and abandoning the intention to kill from your own mind. So that's already helping the world. You may think, oh, not much, but that's a big thing, to give up the intention to kill from your own mind. And then it may give you some strength to do that, encourage other people, you know, people around you to do the same. It gives them the strength, the support. As far as other groups of people far away, well, you can practice compassion in your meditation, send your thoughts to all the people involved in all the wars in the world, because there's a number going on, not just Gaza, but any war is destructive of life, property, something we want to try and end as soon as possible. But at the same time, we know that karma sometimes is so strong, you can't end it. You just have to wait with compassion, and there may be small things you can do. But a lot of them just seem like gestures, don't they? So you have to just practice equanimity until conditions change, and then maybe you can do something or join a group who's doing something to relieve the suffering in areas of war such as Gaza or Ukraine. But you have to be realistic that maybe personally you can't do a lot. So number one, work with yourself, your own unwholesome intentions, work on them, abandoning them. And some Buddhist monastics, monks, nuns, they know people in Israel, in Gaza, they do something that they can to relieve suffering. But you know, at this time, in the middle of a war there, it's very difficult just to communicate with people, let alone do anything to help. So we do have to practice equanimity and compassion together. And, you know, if there's something you can do, you do. If there's not, you have to wait. But with a heart of compassion, and maybe meditate, sending your thoughts for early ending of hostilities. We know from the time of the Buddha, sometimes the Buddha talked people out of fighting, but sometimes he couldn't achieve that, and he just had to step back and let them have their war until it was over. And war is like that. It's so many people involved, such destruction. Sometimes all you can do is step back and look after yourself until you're in a situation maybe to offer more to people who are suffering in a war zone, say. We just have to accept that.
Next question. Dear Ajahn, how do I forgive someone fully? I just keep thinking why and can never find the answer.
Well, again, come back to your own mind, your own cultivation of mindfulness. If you can't forgive someone, you're holding on to something there. Again, self-view and anger towards that person. Maybe you feel they've hurt you, done something wrong. But the emotion of anger, ill will, the bearing of a grudge, even hatred, is your emotion, your thought, your feeling. So you have to fix that. And you have to keep turning back to your anger and see that it's a cause of suffering, and it's not helping you, it's not helping them to hold on to anger. And with anger, we tend to go towards punishment. I want to punish them, get them back. But that's not going to help them or you, because you'll make more bad karma. So come back to yourself. If you're still unable to forgive, keep working on it every day. Cultivate kindness, compassion, keep working at it. until you can think of that person without being angry. And that means you've forgiven them. You're no longer holding on to anger. That's your goal. It may take 1 week, may take 1 year, 1 lifetime, doesn't matter. Just keep working at it till you can free your own mind from anger, hatred, grudges.
The next question. Dear Ajahn, is fate real?
Fate. Well, I guess you mean like destiny. It had to happen, but depends on how you're defining fate. We talk in Buddhism about karma, cause and effect. So if something happens, there will be causes and conditions that have led up to that event, that situation. It's a personal thing, you know. I am the owner of my karma, heir to my karma. So things happen to us and we can say, oh, this is my fate, but really it's a whole set of causes and conditions have brought you to that point in your life and then you've had this experience. Where we can change karma is in the present moment. So what's arising in the present moment, say in your thinking, the thought that arises from moment to moment will be past karma, giving its result, and the feelings that come up, pleasant and unpleasant, through your sense contact. But what you do next is your new karma. So that's where we say you can change destiny or fate by, say you introduce more Dhamma into your thinking and your decision making and your actions, and more wholesome, skillful qualities, then you start to make more good karma and you can quickly or slowly abandon unwholesome states of mind and improve your life in many, many ways. That starts from the present moment. And we have to be patient as old karma gives its result, because some of that result will be unpleasant. And you could say, oh, it's my old karma giving rise to this painful feeling or this obstacle or this difficult situation. The important thing is how do you deal with it, what you do next. When we, the usual way of describing fate is to say, well, it's fate, this had to happen, as though you're giving up any personal responsibility. And that's not very wise, because there will be your part in that situation, what's led up to it, and then how you deal with it. That's you, isn't it? And the Buddha said, even if you are receiving the fruits of past negative karma and they're coming up, if you receive them by cultivating good qualities, such as mindfulness, virtuous behavior, kindness, patience, and then wisdom, insight, even negative karma giving its result doesn't have to throw you off, doesn't have to make your mind go into unwholesome ways of thinking or acting. We can cope with the results of past negative karma as they come up skillfully if we choose and if we train and practice. So keep coming back to that, making good karma, abandoning unwholesome karma, and the idea of fate, destiny, maybe put it to one side. It's a way of, it's a cultural conditioning that we often say and believe in, but it's once you're practicing meditation, you can change the way you look at things, and you can give up the idea of fate and destiny, and now look more just at your own actions.
Sadhu, Lumpur. Next question. If some opinion makes us feel bad, then how do we let go of that?
Observe what's going on. First of all, we have a basic respect for other people, even if they have different opinions, behaviors, characteristics. We give them some basic respect, and then learn to listen. Then you can absorb rather than just react. I don't like or I don't agree with that opinion. You're going straight to anger. We're learning to listen better, bring the opinion in, and then maybe compare it with what we've learned from the Buddha. And we can listen to the Dhamma from the Buddha, from teachers, and then from our own experience ultimately, but that takes a bit of time as we practice. And compare rather than just react. I don't agree, that's not right. Listen, give the person respect, listen, and then see if it works for you, if it's true. And if it's not true, well, you can discard their opinion. You don't have to react with anger. If it's a person that trusts you or you're close to, maybe you can even help them to learn or educate them, maybe. If they won't listen to you, well, you have to practice equanimity and accept, oh, this person doesn't agree with me, but you can know for yourself what they believe in, what they do is wrong, harmful. But if they're not listening and they don't want to change, you just accept that. And you know for yourself what you know is right and good for you and will lead to the end of suffering. And we have to do that every day, don't we? There'll be people around who have different opinions, but you don't have to get angry or fight them or argue with them. You just know, oh, they have a different opinion. And then you move on. And maybe you can find something in common with those people. There'll still be things maybe you can share in common with them and maybe focus on that first. And the difference is you just put to one side so they're not too disruptive to your life.
Sadhu, Lompo. Next question. What does the Buddhist teaching say about the soul?
Nothing. The soul is not a Buddhist word. It's a Christian concept of, the eternal self, you might say. I'm not an expert on Christianity either, so I hesitate to talk too much about other religions, but it's a word that doesn't come from Buddhism. Buddhism talks about the citta, the quality of knowing, citta, vijnana, mano. But the citta is arising and ceasing all the time. It's not a permanent entity like what a soul is. It's just the quality of knowing, and we can know things from moment to moment to moment, but it's not a permanent, lasting self. And in Buddhism, there's no such thing as an eternal heaven or hell. These different realms are based on karma, again, states of mind, actions, and then causes and results. And so one's train of consciousness may be reborn in a heaven realm or a hell realm, or back as a human or as a kangaroo, wherever, depending on karma. But consciousness arises and passes away all the time. It's not a fixed, lasting thing, that unchanging in the way a soul is. And that's something you have to investigate. That's what meditation is giving you the tools to do, to observe how mental states come in and out of the mind. They're caused and triggered by different situations and conditions. In Buddhism, there's no such thing as original sin. The mind is just this quality of knowing, but because of defilements of greed, anger, and delusion, they come into the mind, take it over, and that leads us to suffering. And one of the delusions is a sense of self. So even Buddhists will believe in a self and attach to a sense of self, but then they're hopefully investigating that, see where they're going wrong through their meditation and practice. So they start to give up that wrong view. And ultimately, Nibbana is the unconditioned, the unborn. They don't have to go through being born and dying again. They're with the unconditioned, the unborn, the uncreated, emptiness. So the best way to see through the idea of a soul is to meditate until you experience emptiness, peace, emptiness, at least temporarily, and then you get an insight into that.
Does anyone have any further questions or comments? So, Lompo, there are no further questions.
Very nice to talk to you all, and we'll see you again next time. We wish you well.